S Word, featuring Will Gavin and Master Tess Fassian. And a squad of big-name contributors. The S Word from talkSPORT.
Very good morning and welcome to the S Word, live on the East Coast from 8 a.m. and here in the UK it's 1 p.m. and there are just 3 more sleeps until World Cup 2026. Do you like it? I posted it like a child thinking about Christmas. You did? Because that's what it is. We're basically at Christmas Eve, Master. We're almost here. The World Cup is nearly upon us.
Advent season, as we can describe it.
I'm Will Gavin, Master Tess Fatsian alongside me, and today, action-packed show. We're going to be talking France and previewing the action in their group with Jeremy Smith, French football expert. We'll talk Spain with Paul Bayas, who'll be joining us to break down their high-stakes campaign in Group H. Massive news out of East London. We may touch on that with David Sullivan leaving. We've got African football expert Michael Lahoud joining us. We're talking to match-worn shirts, and we're going to talk about some of those friendlies over the weekend. The USA impressive in defeat against Germany. England belaboured on that pitch in Tampa Bay, and Americans not happy with us complaining about it. That'll all be coming up on the S Word.
What's new?
Bring your lunch, bring your dinner.
There's no time for lunch or dinner around here because there's only the feast of football that is the 2026 World Cup. Master, how are we feeling? How good weekend? Rested? Ready to go? Because we're going 7 days a week now,
We are. There's no more weekends off now. Every day matters. There will be some of the most important matches that we've seen in the biggest World Cup of all time happening every single day. No better place to cover it than right here on talkSPORT.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's start off with the USMNT because 2-1 defeat to Germany this weekend. And I was telling you a little bit about this before the show today, but I found myself, we've been doing this show for 4 or so weeks now. And obviously, you know, we're posting clips on Instagram and TikTok, and I'm following a lot of new accounts I've not followed before, and I'm kind of warming up to the World Cup. And I found myself on USMNT TikTok and USMNT Instagram. And I tell you what I found really interesting is kind of getting the usual talking head kind of, you know, guys sat in their room, you know, influencer types. The ones who are talking about the USMNT, a lot of like pushback on the reaction to this weekend. A lot of, oh yeah, great, we went toe-to-toe with Germany for 60 minutes. That doesn't matter because the result wasn't there. And kind of, I feel like there's this different energy from US fans on social media where they're like, no, we shouldn't be settling for being, oh, wasn't it nice we were participants? We should be going and winning these games.
It depends on the perspective people have for friendlies. And I don't want to say the result doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's a friendly.
As an Englishman, we've never treated friendlies with anything other than contempt. It's about warm-up. It's about getting used to the heat. It's about all of those things.
It's like an NFL preseason game. Like no one's remembering, oh, did the Seattle Seahawks, how did they do in preseason? No one cares at the end of the day. At the end of the day, what matters is what you do when the tournament starts. And these matches are to help prepare you to understand what the roles are everyone's going to play and how this team's going to shape up. And I think we got a better idea of that against Germany.
What did you make of the performance then?
I liked what I saw from the first half. Obviously, giving up a set-piece goal in the first 2 minutes to Kai Havertz was not the greatest thing, but
he's learnt well in his time in North London.
Has
clearly.
he not? And you know what? There was a side of me that was kind of like, try not to celebrate that one, but it was a lovely goal. And then the response thereafter, I thought was very encouraging. I loved what I saw from Anthony Robinson. Obviously, he scored an absolute worldly goal. That was tremendous.
A true thunder bastard. Like an unbelievable strike.
We're seeing still the back five, what Serginho Dest is going to do on the right and what Anthony Robinson is going to do on the left, and how they can create chaos mixing in with the wingers and the attack. There was a lot of chances created. In fact, the USA had more shots in the first half than Germany, and it wasn't even close.
The amount that Dest gets into that 18-yard box, even in and around the 6-yard box, that like Pulisic pulling up the left-hand side and then bringing the ball back in, and 2 separate occasions that happened, and Dest was the guy getting on the end of it. Like, I thought that was really encouraging to see, like, just being willing to get forward, to make those sharp runs, to be direct. I loved what I saw from Dest.
Yeah, and it was very similar to what we've seen from these 2 friendlies from the USA, is that in order to create these chances, we have the right formation set up. We saw it against Senegal. We saw it against Germany now. Having that back five with Jedi and Dest, creating that havoc, creating that chaos, creating chances, works best for this team. In terms of the things that I maybe thought, again, do concern me and things that I will be monitoring. First and foremost, we need Chris Richards back. Without Chris Richards, this is going to be a very, very challenging group stage. If Chris Richards is there, I don't know if the USA gives up that set piece goal to Kai Havertz. Miles Robinson was the one tailing there, was a step late, and it created that goal. The goal that was conceded right before the starters were about to come off to Sadio Mane, similar situation. Didn't seem like Robinson stepped up there and closed in on Sané, got a deflection and goes in. Again, if Chris Richards is there, I feel much better about this back line. If he is not there, there is a huge concern having, Tim Ream, all due respect, he's the captain. He's much older, doesn't have the pace. And Miles Robinson, again, all due respect.
We've got a Fulham fan on the other side of the glass, by the way, today. So you can't be speaking ill of Tim Ream.
Fulham legend and American legend. And he's the captain of this team. His veteran leadership is going to be fantastic for this club, or for this nation, excuse me. But Chris Richards is the anchor for this back line. He's been the anchor time and time again. We need him. The other concern, for all the shots that they had in this game, the only goal they scored was a worldie. I mean, they had 16 shots in this game. For all the chances and the opportunities that they had, this has to be a nation that maximizes and takes advantage of the chances that they create. And I did not see enough of that in this game, considering how much possession they had in the first half and having 20 touches in Germany's box. There were periods where they truly dominated Germany and just did not have anything to show for it outside of that worldly goal. The last part, and this is a concern you never really have for Team USA, but you do this summer. Goalkeeper is a concern. And usually the USA can produce some incredible goalkeepers in our history. But I don't think Matt Freese is good enough to be starting for Team USA. And
are there other options there?
I mean, Matt Turner's our other option. And we've seen him bounce around, obviously, throughout Europe. He started back there between the sticks in the 2022 World Cup. It feels like it's probably going to be Matt Turner back there. But either way, whether it's Matt Turner or whether it's Matt Freese, I don't feel confident enough in our goalkeeper in a way that I just have never felt this way before as a U.S. soccer fan. So those are my three biggest takeaways from this, is that we need Chris Richards back. He's the anchor defensively. We need to maximize all the chances that we create with this back five. And we have to figure out what we can do at goalkeeper, because the two options that we have just simply aren't good enough.
Let's hear from Anthony Robinson, who spoke with our very own Ben Jacobs after the game on that wonder goal that he scored, and what a strike it was.
I think I've only ever struck the ball like that once in a game and it hit the post, so I'm just happy it went in this time.
That's the best goal you've ever scored?
I'd say so, yeah. It's not very close.
I think it'd be the best goal most people have scored. I think this is a goal that might be the best goal we see at the whole World Cup, and it happened in a friendly.
It was tremendous, a tremendous strike on a set piece, falls straight to him, and just one time it couldn't have struck it any cleaner. I jumped out of my seat. That goal was the excitement we needed.
I scared my children. They were still up at that point because I was home alone on Saturday night. So obviously they had a late bedtime, and I jumped out of my seat. Oh! And full on, like, I just had two-year-olds just staring back at me. Sorry, what just happened?
And if you got excited for that way, like, imagine how the American public feels, because this game was very hyped up. There was a great crowd showing up in Chicago. 2 minutes in, you concede a goal. And I'm getting text messages from my casual American soccer fans saying, "Oh, we stink, don't we?" And I'm like, take it easy. Give it some time. Anthony Robinson's goal is one that you can point at, have it go viral amongst the American soccer casual fans, the American sports casual fans, and they see this and think, "Oh, I haven't seen that from this U.S. side." That is a goal that strikes excitement into the American fan base that thinks maybe, just maybe, you can have some optimism.
And listen, we're at a point with the just US soccer fan in general, right, where, yes, the video's been shared over the weekend of them singing and people taking the mick out of the Outlaws and having a bit of fun with them, and we love it, and the kind of plastic atmosphere idea. But what I think I've noticed is, between this being on that side of social media over recent weeks, but also seeing the way that it's approached, like, I didn't love when we've got the Nick Wrights, etc. of the world speaking out about football and trying to sound informed about it. But what you are hearing is like the talk show hosts, the Colin Cowherds, people like that, speaking really positively about soccer, speaking really positively about the USMNT, about the talent in this team. And you mentioned it, Chicago, 70,000 fans there, all of them USA fans, all of them in their shirts, like real festival of football outside. And I think for all those people who are quite snobby about the USMNT, about their fans, about the approach to soccer in North America and everything else, I was buoyed by all of that. Between the performance and everything else we saw in the stadium, I was like, do you know what? I can now finally feel like the US are buying into it.
The media coverage is not a reflection of what you see every single day in the streets of America. And I think this summer will be a further proof of the disconnect that exists from sports media and the American public at large. We're talking over 50 million people consider themselves avid soccer fans in the United States. A place in a world in which it has grown exponentially from 1994 to 1999 with the 99ers and the U.S. women's team to even 2010. I don't think it's enough credit with the U.S. in South Africa, the incredible Landon Donovan goal that gets them into the knockout stage. There have been moments and periods now that has culminated to this fan base and this growth of the sport in America that was on display in Chicago, and I think will be on display throughout the tournament. Again, all it takes is the opener, and if the USA finds a way to get 3 points, I'm not saying it'll be New York Knicks crazy, but I think you will see a lot of people getting behind this nation. We've seen it time and time again with the Olympics, winter, summer. The U.S. can get behind a team in which they believe in. They just have to give them a reason to believe.
And by the way, if anyone needs to get ready for the World Cup and the overnight games, if they're over this side of the pond, Game 3 tonight, perfect opportunity to train your body, start getting into that.
Are you going to stay up for it?
I think I'm going to try.
Come on.
I think what I'm going to try and do is like go to sleep when my kids go to sleep and then wake back up for it. Because
your kids will wake you up for that.
Yeah, it's going to happen either way. So I'm getting up at 6 a.m. either way. It'd be nice to have some form of sleep in between those times.
They weren't the only game, though, right?
No, exactly. England played this weekend. Let's hear from the England manager, Thomas Tuchel, because the American fans weren't particularly happy with seeing Brits complaining about the conditions, and Thomas Tuchel said it did them no favours today.
Not the moment to doubt and to put everything in question. I think you need to put it into perspective. Like I said, Harry played last time for us in November, and a lot of them played last time for us in November, and today was like two very new teams each half. It takes a while, so I saw good stuff in training. The guys are fully committed, and we will get better.
Thomas Tuchel, England manager there, speaking to our very own Faker Others after the game. A 1-0 win over New Zealand. You wouldn't call it particularly impressive on the pitch, but very much a job well done in terms of different 11 both halves. They got through it unscathed. Master, a lot of the American fans not happy with British and English fans in particular, whinging about the pitch, whinging about the ticket prices for a friendly, mocking the pirate ship in the stadium. A lot of pointed that it's suggestion of European snobbery of the treatment in those situations. The problem is, and you and I both had this, right? It's not a World Cup stadium.
No,
there are
not.
So many of these stadiums. They were saying the same about Carolina when the Senegalese team couldn't bounce the ball, right? They were like, oh, I can't believe the pitch is going to be this state. The stadiums which are being used for the World Cup are going to be in immaculate condition. Having been inside a majority of those stadiums previously, and also knowing what Americans can do with grass and knowing what Americans approaches to their ground staff and everything, I think you are going to see something sensational. But at the same time, it was a little disappointing to see a pitch for the first time we're going to see this England team this summer, and the lines weren't even straight, and it looked completely patchwork, and it was clearly very dry, and all those things that just don't lend themselves to a particularly enjoyable game of football, even if some of the complaints are unfounded because it's not a World Cup stadium.
They've been growing the grass that they're going to use for some of these World Cup stadiums for over a year now. Mm-hmm. So again, I've saw the complaints about Tampa. I even saw complaints about San Diego with Columbia in terms of the security and fans having to wait outside before the match started. Again, this is not a World Cup venue. I feel like I spent all weekend long trying to defend American venues from the random English banter that was happening because they keep saying, how on earth is America hosting this thing? First and foremost, America has a better stadium infrastructure than any other place in the world. And second of all, the security, the grass, all that stuff in these venues, all of that will get resolved. They use the Club World Cup literally to help figure out logistically what they can do and how they can make some of these stadiums better. So all of these complaints, again, there's a lot wrong with this World Cup. I am not in any way defending FIFA, the World Cup, the United States,
and all
of the water bottles, all that stuff. I am not defending any of those. But when you pile on without knowing the information or doing your own research, you just look a bit foolish. And it just makes a lot of these complaints just kind of fall in where I find myself defending America. and please don't make me do that. I mean, I don't mind doing that, but just don't sound stupid. Just do your research.
But at the same time, so on the other side of it, I had a lot of people tag me, the great Brett Coleman from All 32, who is a great NFL writer and film studier and everything else. He retweeted something from a New Zealand writer who was at the game, whose mind had been blown by the Buccaneers Stadium, who loved the layout, who loved the pirate ship, who loved everything else.
I was engaging back and forth with him, by the way.
I saw a bit of that. And listen, there was some conversation about the fact that you said it right. That doesn't top a touch 16 team in the NFL. Maybe even not top 20 at this point.
Maybe
with all
not.
The new stadiums coming in. But I saw a lot of people in the comments getting in there and being like, oh, these Europeans don't know what they're talking about. They've never been to an SEC Saturday night game in LSU or Alabama or anything like that. And I did find it a little disrespectful to the quality and atmosphere of European stadiums and European soccer teams and everything else, because I was just like, hold on. A lot of the people commenting on that haven't done both.
No.
You and I have both done both. You and I have been in Borussia Dortmund to see the yellow wall on a Thursday night in European football or a Wednesday night in European football. You and I have been at Anfield when it's absolutely rocking and You'll Never Walk Alone goes. And I've also been in Alabama for rivalry games. I've also been to LSU for rivalry games. And I can tell you, whilst unique, both are incredible. And there isn't some weird European versus the USA stadium nonsense that people were trying to stir up on Twitter. Both are sensational. And this idea that, oh, these little Europeans, if they came over here and had to see what our real atmospheres are like, they would absolutely brick themselves. I'm like, calm down. Just calm down a little.
I will say, though, packing in 100,000 people for a college football game.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
In the middle of nowhere, in the South, Kyle Field, going to Death Valley, going to Tuscaloosa. Again, what stadiums in Europe can do that?
There are very few stadiums which have the numbers to do that, but I believe that if they had the numbers, they would pack them in and you would still get that atmosphere.
I'm sure they would. I'm sure again,
my point is
they don't exist.
That they are. It's so unique and such a beautiful thing, and I don't see why both can't be brilliant. Because there was this real kind of, it felt like 4 or 5 days out from the World Cup, and we're finding a reason to argue with Americans thing, and I was just like, calm down.
It's going to be happening all month. I mean, we've been doing it for a month now. If anything, this show is a microcosm of what you're going to experience for the next 6 weeks. It is going to be a culture clash of sports, and people trying to say American sports culture is trash, and people saying abroad that. Again, if you think the Tampa Bay Bucks Stadium is impressive, as I told that reporter, wait till you go to SoFi. You will be in 2070.
Although saying that, New Zealand have 1 game at SoFi and then 2 games up at the BC Lions Vancouver Stadium, and that will feel much more like being a domestic New Zealand soccer game, because I love Vancouver. I have family there. It's a wonderful city. It's not a great stadium.
Yeah,
it's not a great choice of
Unfortunately, it's not.
Listen, we didn't get around to talking about the England performance of it all.
Yeah,
but we've got plenty of time in the show today.
But there's one thing I want to get off my chest real quick.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let him cook.
And this is talking to the English fans. What is your gripe against Jude Bellingham? I just do not understand why there is this English bashing towards Jude Bellingham. Let me remind you that this is one of 3 players on your national team that has won a Champions League. During the Euros, he scored an incredible goal in a big moment against Slovakia, scored 2 goals with a injured shoulder that he pushed off surgery for so we can make sure that he was available for this tournament. He has stepped up and played a position at the number 10 that is not natural to him, but he has excelled exceptionally in that position. Just because he chose not to play in the Premier League, it feels like there is this huge criticism or insecurity from the English fans that do not get to watch him on a weekly basis, that hold it against him to this day, when he is your second best player on this national team. There should not be any debate as to who starts at the number 10. Jude Bellingham should start for England every single time he's available. He has done nothing but give his best, give his all, even when he didn't have his all, to England, and the simple fact that it continues to remain a debate as to who should start at the number 10 between him and Morgan Rogers. And there's no disrespect to Morgan Rogers. He's an exceptional player. But this
could well be an Arsenal player in a few weeks.
He could be. But comparing him to Jude Bellingham, I think it's laughable, considering what Jude Bellingham has done so far in his career, what he has accomplished, and what he has sacrificed to try and give his all for England's national team. I do not understand why the English media and some of the fans are so obsessed with trying to discredit Jude Bellingham. It just does not make any sense. Get over yourselves.
Can we go a little long here? Is that all right? Just checking with the other side of the glass. Just because now we're onto it, I'm going to have my say. So supposedly Thomas Tuchel has told Jude Bellingham he's a starter, but one of 15 players who've been told they're starters. So there's very clearly 3 or 4 positions that he considers rotational. Now, I think we can assume that the left wing position with Gordon and Rashford is going to be one of those. I think we can assume that the back 3 is going to be 2 of 3 out of Stones, Konza and Gay. I would probably say the second centre midfield position alongside Declan Rice. So Anderson, Mainu, who's going to be starting there, is still a question mark on this. And supposedly Rodgers and Bellingham is one of those positions that is kind of up to debate. I definitely trust Thomas Tuchel more than I have done Gareth Southgate. From a tactical perspective, I am more trusting with a guy who's gone and won things and understands about changing formations, about being bold, about playing to your opposition. What I've never understood about all of this is Gareth Southgate's approach was, we are going to play low block, we're going to play with 2 holding midfielders, doesn't matter who we're playing, we keep possession and we maybe try and hit on the counter, but we are going to very much have a back 5, 6, whatever we're going to be doing at the wing backs. It's going to be that we're going to have 2 holding midfielders. I think when you're playing Panama, I think when you're playing Ghana, no disrespect to either of those teams, I don't understand why Declan Rice can't play as a single low block midfielder. Why you can't have Declan Rice as a 6, Jude Bellingham in what I think is his better natural position as an 8, and then another player ahead of him. I'd much rather have Jude Bellingham linking up the play, pulling all the strings in midfield, being the one to feed those balls over the top to the wide positions, being the one to make... Because Morgan Rogers is a more traditional 10. He is a more traditional drive into the box, supply the playmaker. Harry Kane will, drop deep. Morgan Rogers will run ahead of him, which Jude Bellingham isn't necessarily going to do. I actually think the best balance for this England team is playing both of those players playing them as the 8 and the 10.
Don't you want Jude in the box, though?
Lesser teams. But that will still be something that happens. He is still a player who'll drive forwards. He'll still be a player that runs onto those. I'm talking about if you're going up against a team who you consider yourself on paper a team who you could dominate, why not go out and play a more attacking formation? Why not go out and press them? And why not go and have Jude Bellingham and Morgan Rogers both playing, both attacking the box, both making those runs, both making those passes, and really give yourself an opportunity to go and overwhelm a team, force them to sit deep, not invite them onto you. I just don't see, it's always been an issue with mine. I love Elliot Anderson. I want to see him play for England. I really like Kobbie Mainoo. I want to see him play for England. But in those games, I do not understand why you can't play a 6 and then a proper attacking 8 alongside the 10. Why they both couldn't fit in that team. It's not been experimented with. It's not been discussed. And I would love to see them both playing because I think that gives England the best attacking option.
I wouldn't mind it. But the idea that Jude should not be starting, there's 2 players.
It's madness. If it's Jude versus Rogers, I'm taking Jude every single time, to be clear.
Jude and Harry Kane should start every single big match that England has to play in this World Cup. Yeah. No question.
If you were to ask me who the first names on the team sheet are, for me personally, it's going to be Pickford at the back, it's going to be Bellingham, it's going to be Kane. Those 3 are my first 3 on there. And Rice. I think that'll be my 4. I'm going to give Rice as well. Centre-backs is a question mark still at this point, but honestly, Jude Bellingham is named 2, 3 or 4 on the team sheet for me. Madness that you would not start him if you're playing a single 10, if you're not doing some kind of rotation. 100%.
Completely agree.
I hate agreeing with you so much, but there we go. Right, let's move on. We've got some great stuff coming up over the next hour of the show, and we'll turn our attention to one of the favourites for the tournament, Espanyol, up next here on the S Word.
The daily deep dive into the world of football. The S Word from talkSPORT. kickoff to the full-time whistle. Don't say the S word. Say the F word. Football. The S word from talkSPORT.
You're back with the S word on talkSPORT. Will Gavin alongside me, Master Tez Fatsian. Get in touch in the chat on any of the topics we're talking about today. Reg says, Bellingham has been garbage for 2 years, you muppet. That's someone who has not been watching.
You have not been watching Jude Bellingham.
No.
You want to say that last year? Sure. The second half of this year, when he finally got healthy and got his form, I don't think you watched La Liga. But
I also think he is, if you want to talk from a talent perspective, there were huge conversations and question marks, right, over whether or not we should take a Cole Palmer, a Phil Foden, guys who can have magical moments and have a level of talent above some others but haven't been on form. If Bellingham hadn't been on form, he is a step above all of those players.
100%.
He is one of the truly world-class players. And when I mean truly world-class, I'm talking about Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham. I think Declan Rice just about makes it onto that list. But when we talk about the quality in the England squad, I think it's one of the deepest squads. I think it's one of the strongest squads in the World Cup. But when you want to talk about that very top tier of player, that player who is a world-class Hall of Famer, if we were talking in American terms, Jude Bellingham is one of those players.
It's a fact.
Couldn't agree anymore. Again, the criticism and whatever spite you may feel because he chose to play in La Liga over the Premier League, get over yourself.
We back Bellingham. And actually, we've got somebody coming on now who is going to have been watching a huge amount of Jude Bellingham as a Spanish football expert from The Athletic. The excellent Paul Bayas is with us. Paul, how are you doing, sir?
Hello, how are you? ¿Cómo estamos?
Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Muy bien, muy bien. I cannot complain. Yeah, I just can't wait to go to the United States. I'm just leaving on Wednesday and just to follow what Spain can be doing.
So you're still in Europe at the moment. Before we get into the Spain of it all, we have just been having this debate about Jude Bellingham being the 10 for England. For some reason, he is considered one of the players that there could be a rotation position for. For people who maybe don't watch La Liga, just give us an idea of how important he is to this Real Madrid team.
Yeah, no, I would say that he's instrumental to this Real Madrid team, but we have to take into account that the last couple of seasons have not been great for Real Madrid. Trophyless seasons, that doesn't tend to happen at Real Madrid, and when this happens, there's a lot of drama and tension around the club and questioning to all the big stars. I still would say that among all the talk of which are the stars that Real Madrid don't need, I don't think that Bellingham is in that category because he's so multifunctional. He can do so many things on a football pitch that, he's basically really useful in just any context that any team wants him to play. So in that regard, I think that I agree with the fact that there has to be no discussion about his talent. I am not in Thomas Tuchel's head. I don't know what the plans he had or the tactical fit or the tactical profile that he wants for the number 10. And we can get into discussion about that. But if we discuss about his quality, I don't think that there's doubt about that. And the last 2 seasons at Madrid, the last 2 seasons have not been great, but there's not been doubt about Jude Bellingham being a top-class player.
Should we touch on Real Madrid before we go to Group H?
Yeah, 100%. Let's do it. Let's do it. We're here.
I need to ask you about this Real Madrid election. It absolutely chaos the last few weeks between Enrique Riquelme and Florentino Perez. Obviously, the vote happens on Sunday. Florentino Perez will remain as the head honcho of Real Madrid.
Tighter than expected, though. Tighter than expected.
It seems like, Riquelme got, 30%, a little over 30% of the votes.
Yep.
What message do you think was sent through this election, and what are the ramifications coming out of this?
Yeah, so basically, I think it's no surprise to anyone that Florentino Perez won. It was what everyone expected. He's the most important president in Real Madrid history, possibly. And Enrique Riquelme was mostly an unknown guy that has burst into the scene in those last month when the elections came up. And I think that the big surprise was the thin margin that Florentino Perez had to win this. I mean, it's not a thin margin because it was a 35% of votes, but still, having a 35% against Florentino Perez, the biggest figure in Real Madrid's history, just assembling this has been positive for him, and I think that puts him in a strong position for the next election. But that's going to be another story. Now the closest future for Real Madrid is just Florentino Perez. And what's coming next is just signings and bringing in new players and a new manager. Jose Mourinho is basically confirmed as the new manager, and 2 defensive reinforcements are also coming in at Real Madrid. Ibrahima Konate from Liverpool and Denzel Dumfries from Inter Milan are both expected to join Real Madrid and just to provide a bit of depth in the defensive line, which is something that the team has lacked. And then we'll see what Real Madrid does. But there's the expectation that big signings are going to happen beyond this. That Florentino Perez is going to make big investments. I'm talking about over 100 million signings. So let's see what happens from here.
Do you think it's Michael Olise? Do you think I'm seeing Julian Alvarez rumors right now going on crazy this morning? Who do you think this mysterious 150 million euro bid that Florentino Perez kept teasing throughout this campaign? Who would it be?
Yeah, I don't have the full information of who will it be. I have doubts that Michael Olise will leave Bayern Munich. As much as Florentino Perez and all Real Madrid fans and all football fans would want to have Michael Olise on their team, I don't see Bayern selling him. If you ask me, and if you look at Real Madrid and people at the club, they assess that one of the biggest necessities that the team has is the central midfield. Find a creative midfielder that gives the team this sort of football machine that they have missed over the past couple of seasons without Modric in top form, without Toni Kroos. So that's the position that they are certainly looking for. And it would make sense for me to imagine a player in that regard. There's been rumors about Vitinha, about João Neves. I envisage tough negotiations with PSG as well. Let's see if that goes to Enzo Fernandez. I don't have a clue, but it's a player that has been linked to Real Madrid as well. So yeah, a lot of names that can be profiled in that category. But surely Real Madrid are going to be in for big buys this summer.
Is there any part of you that buys into the idea that Jose Mourinho is the right man to come in at this point? I mean, a 15 million euro release clause to get him out of his current contract. And when you consider everything that's happened, the training ground bust-ups, the Kylian Mbappe of it all, the Vinny Jr. of it all as well, going back to the time of Xabi Alonso, that he is the man, he's a bit of an iron rod manager to come in and actually bring some harmony to this squad.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, for my personal opinion, I think that Real Madrid's problem is more of a dressing room problem rather than a management problem. And that's possibly what they need to fix. But in terms of contracts and the financial situation that the squad is in is a tough one to solve, because you need to assume a bad sale or something like this. And I don't see Real Madrid wanting to do that. And in Mourinho, what I see is possibly not a long-term manager or something to look at the next 10 years for the club or to build a big project for the future, but someone that is going to bring authority into the dressing room. If you ask Real Madrid directors, they just believe that the fact of the manager having this authority and these strong voice in the dressing room, just like Real Madrid, is really, really important. And that's what they're looking for. Just a voice that the player will follow, which is something that they have missed over the last season, either with Xabi Alonso or with Álvaro Arbeloa.
Moving on to Spain now. I mean, a place in which Real Madrid, unfortunately, is not being represented. It is in Spain's national team. Let's focus in on Group H, a very interesting group, obviously, with Spain, Uruguay, Cape Verde, and Saudi Arabia. Spain already, of course, landing in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which they will call home throughout the next month.
They never expected Spain in Chattanooga, Tennessee to ever be two places that came together like that, but there we go.
Neither did I. But the Lamine Yamal and crew are making the best of this. I need to ask you, what do you... we'll start with Lamine Yamal. Why not? In terms of his injury, is there any expectation of when he'll come back, and how does Spain try to fill in his absence, considering some of the other injuries they have up top?
Yeah, the expectation the Spain can have right now is that he can be back at the group stage. So he can play at the group stage. Possibly the most likely thing is that he doesn't start in the first game, and I don't really see a necessity to use him in the first game, given that they play against Cape Verde, which is a team that Spain should be winning. But yeah, the expectation is that Lamine Yamal is back at the group stage. He really wants to play at the World Cup. It's been a big dream for him to be in this competition. There's an assumption inside him that this is the biggest competition in the whole world, just even bigger than the Champions League, something like this. So he wants to be a part of it. The big question is, how is he going to feel? How is he going to be? How is he going to be able to perform? Because I am one of those who thinks that Spain has the best team and the best role assembly in that World Cup, which is a key thing in the international tournaments. But at the end of the day, how Lamine Yamal performs is going to define what Spain can do in this World Cup. And seeing how he performs in the group stage, in these games that he can start returning, possibly in the second game, to be fully fit in the third game against Uruguay. Just to see how Lamine Yamal is going to be key to fully assess what this Spain team can do.
Looking at this midfield, again, it's a very talented midfield, but obviously driven by the engines of Pedri and Rodri. There also is some durability concerns with some of these midfielders. When they're healthy and they're at their best, obviously this is one of the best midfields in the world. But can we expect that in a longer tournament, and also a tournament, of course, where the conditions are going to play such a huge part? How important is it for Rodri and Pedri to stay healthy? And is that something that's being factored in terms of people considering Spain as the favorites?
Yeah, I think it's really important, but I don't envisage like a huge problem, because the depth they have is just outstanding. I mean, because if you take Rodri out, you have Martin Zubimendi, which of course we can agree that he has not been great at the end of the season with Arsenal, but still is a really good player. Then if not, you have Fabian Ruiz. Fabian Ruiz is outstanding. He's an outstanding player, one of the most underrated players in the world, possibly one of the best performers at the Euros a couple of summers ago. And then if you want me to keep mentioning names, they have Dani Olmo, they have Mikel Merino, which is a trusted lieutenant of the manager Luis de la Fuente. So I think that in that regard, Spain are really open. Of course, they're going to take care of Rodri and Pedri because it's really key for them. And as I was saying, to win a World Cup, you need your 4 best players to be at a really good level. And they are going to take care of them. But something that defined Spain, especially 2 summers ago at the Euros, is that De La Fuente was not afraid of trusting the bench players and just to make changes. I remember the quarterfinals that were won by Mikel Merino, who come off the bench. So if he has to do changes, he will. And what is going to come in from the bench are already really talented players that not every national team has.
I think you're right. He's very willing to use the bench, but it feels like he's also quite set in his kind of starting lineup as well. He's a guy who has the guys that he trusts, and I mean, no more so than goalkeeper, right? We've seen what's happened with David Raya this year. He's emerged as maybe the best goalkeeper in Europe, maybe the world, and yet likelihood is he won't start. So overall, do you trust De La Fuente to make the right decisions when it comes to this longest tournament, hottest tournament, like everything else, where conditioning is going to be such a huge part of getting all the way to that final?
I think he will. I think he will, because basically that's how he's planned his whole tenure as a manager. The way that he structures his team selections, his national call-ups are just based on bringing in players that respect that dressing room harmony and that respects his decision making. So all the players in there believe that this is the best way to go, and it proved to be a success a couple of summers ago. And in a way, I think that the best way to proceed in any football team is just having everyone on board and having all the players understand the way that you want to operate. And in Spain right now, this happens. Then we can discuss that they can be lucky on the football pitch, they can be clinical up front, they can concede an error that leads to a goal, something like this. But in terms of like the decision making, everyone knows what De La Fuente wants to do and what he can do in the future. So the players work in that basis, and I think that this is a positive frame to work with.
What's the pressure Spain is feeling, considering this group's, it's going to be between them and Uruguay battling for the top of that group, Group H, but coming off of Euros, coming off of, as you mentioned, this incredibly talented golden era that they're once again in right now to maximize every single international competition. And the expectation globally people have that this team has what it takes to win. What is the pressure Spain is feeling right now, not only just domestically, but globally as well?
Yeah, no, I think that this is a really valid point, because when they went into the Euros, they were not among the favorites. And that was something that back then was used as fuel, just to keep going and just to motivate the players and just to believe that they can prove the doubters wrong. But now they are not in that territory, just like anymore. They are top favorites. They have to be. The players have understood that, and they know that they have this pressure now. And the people in Spain, they expected just to compete to win the title and just to go all the way. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. I think that, as I was saying, this is a group of players that they know themselves really well. They know how to play with each other. There are plenty of Barca players, and the ones that are not Barca players, they have been together with his international teammates like for a long time. So that chemistry, I think that helps a lot. But the sort of like how they deal with the pressure, and if things don't go their way at the first game, is something that are going to be taken into account for sure, and that is going to define as well what Spain is able to.
Lovely stuff. Listen, was there anything more you wanted to ask our great guest?
No, I mean, how would you rank Group H?
Yeah, fair.
How do you think this plays out between Spain, Uruguay, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia? Rank them 1 to 4. How does this group finish out?
I think Spain is number 1, clear. I think they are top candidates to win the World Cup, if I'm honest. Not trying to be biased here. And then the second place, I'm tempted to feel that Uruguay can drop to the third place. I think that Saudi Arabia could go to the second place because Uruguay, it's been eventful with Marcelo Bielsa and like with his selections and with the noise around the camp. So I would say that there's a chance in there. I see more of a chance for Uruguay just to slip off rather than for Spain to slip off against Uruguay, something like this. So yeah, I would say just to be a bit different, Spain, Saudi Arabia, Uruguay, and then Cape Verde.
That's interesting. I got Saudi finishing last in this group. I think Cape Verde is going to finish third, and they'll be fighting for one of the third place spots. Don't sleep on Cape Verde. It's a very solid side, and I've seen them in African qualifiers. Again, I don't think they'll beat Spain, but I think they'll give Uruguay and Saudi Arabia a good fight.
I'm going to write that down then.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of the use of the word eventful to describe this time at Uruguay. It was very political of you. Well done, Paul. And we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Joining us
Cheers, guys.
from The Athletic to look forward to Spain, Group H, Spain, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia, Uruguay. I mean, you're saying you're thinking Spain, Uruguay, Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I think Uruguay still has enough to make it through and finish second in this group. I think Cape Verde, a lot of people are sleeping on Cape Verde. And what I saw from them...
I've famously been sleeping on Cape Verde.
You have.
They've been the team I throw out at any opportunity when I'm talking about the expansion of this tournament.
And everyone, not only just you, I've heard a lot of it at talkSPORT. Who's going to stay for this Cape Verde-Saudi Arabia match? Look, if whoever gets 3 points out of that match is going to be in cruise position, in a nice position to make it to the knockout stage. So I will be up for that match because I understand the significance of it, and I'm excited to see what Cape Verde does. They're one of the underdogs of this World Cup, a nation that got in because of this expanded format, and I think they're going to make the most of it.
Coming up in the second hour of the show, Bob Zonderwijk is going to be joining us from Match-Worn Shirts. If you don't follow the fine work they do, some really cool stuff with them. We're going to talk about France and their group in this World Cup. Jeremy Smith, the great French football writer, will join us, plus Michael Lahoud to give us, well, maybe he's positive on Cape Verde.
He'll break down some African better than anybody else in the world.
I'm ready, but up next we'll go round the grounds and mop up the rest of this weekend's action ahead of the World Cup, which gets underway in just 3 days' time.
Around here, we only use the F word. talkSPORT presents the S word. TalkSPORT presents The S Word. Get your full-on football fix from across the football galaxy. The S Word from TalkSPORT.
Welcome back to the S Word from talkSPORT. Will Gavin, Master Tesfazian, 3 days out from World Cup 2026 getting underway. You can smell it in the air, Master. The anticipation. Oh, I'm so ready.
All these conversations right now are just getting me more giddy for this incredible tournament. It's supposed to be the biggest World Cup of all time.
Can I be honest? Working on this show, I am on fire.
Come on.
Working on this show has really given me a little bit of extra inspiration, because I would say normally when I'm this far out from a World Cup, I'm not necessarily watching all of the friendlies. I'm not necessarily picking apart the formational decisions and things like that. I've had a bit of a tendency in the past to look at them and go, yeah, they're just warm-up games. They don't mean anything. I watched so much football this weekend. I watched more football than I'll probably watch during the World Cup itself, because the fact is there were more games on. There's only 3 a day at most. Of course, 4 at the end of the group stages, but like, those going to be watching games concurrently. Oh, 2 screening it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Match day 3 with the simultaneous matches going on. It's shaping up to be a very, very fun World Cup. But unfortunately, some players through these friendlies have suffered injuries. And as we go around the grounds, we will talk more about some unfortunate injuries and unfortunate moments that happened during these friendlies.
Yeah, conditioning is going to be so key in this tournament. But let's just start off with the news that came out over the weekend revolving Christian Eriksen. Collapsed during Denmark's friendly against the Ukraine. Was conscious almost immediately afterwards. The game was stopped on 65 minutes after he collapsed, abandoned shortly after. But the 34-year-old was able to walk off the field himself. Former Manchester United and Tottenham midfielder, of course. After the incident in Euro 2021, obviously after COVID, in that game with Finland, I was working that day, and I can remember like having to deal with that from a broadcast perspective. I mean, Adrian Durham and Alex Crook, you had to hand them all of the flowers in the world for the way that they were able to handle that whole situation. It was terrifying to see. You were essentially convinced that you may have seen someone die on the field. The positive thing is he's had a pacemaker fitted, and it did its job this weekend.
Yes.
You have to think that the thoughts now creep into the mind, though, of it's happened again. Yes, my life was saved by the device I was fitted with, but if Christian Eriksen's career was to end here, what a career he's had, and what a kind of, if he has to ride off into the sunset, I don't think anyone would judge him negatively for that at this point.
Yeah, that's a tough one for him to accept. And he's 34 years old now. I don't know. I always have a tough time publicly saying a player should stop playing.
Yeah,
I do. Even as uncomfortable as it can make me watching that match, which I was, as Dorgo scored an absolute banger in that match. And again, between Denmark and Ukraine, there was both these nations are not making it to the World Cup and maximizing this international window. And, you know, watching that match and seeing that happen again, you're thinking, oh no, not again. As you're seeing everyone rush out there on the pitch and the match eventually being abandoned. But it's hard for me to tell a professional footballer who grew up dreaming about doing this and playing for their national team and playing professionally throughout Europe to call it quits, because I'm essentially uncomfortable with seeing this episode play out again. That is a tough conversation that Christian needs to have with his family, with his loved ones, and seeing what's possible. And if this is how it ends, it would be a very unfortunate and sad way to see his career in this way. But also it has brought so much awareness into having defibrillators and how we respond to these situations in real time on the pitch. That, again, where the unfortunate aspect of it happening, once again, to the same person, but the response to it clearly significantly improved in terms of the way the staff ran out. I mean, they obviously did an amazing job in 2021 as well, but the immediate response and how everyone knew exactly how to handle this, it just shows how far the sport has come in the last 5 years in that. But I don't know. It's hard for me to tell someone to stop doing what they love. That is a place that I just do not personally feel comfortable doing.
And listen, we live in this funny world with the media where people have a very variant opinion on former footballers versus, you know, normal people like you and I who are football fans who obviously watch the game deeply and have studied the game and follow it but never played it professionally. And some people prefer the thoughts of people who didn't play the game and think that they've followed it in a different way. And some people only want to hear from former sports people. this kind of situation, I really pay attention to what those former sports people are saying, because they understand the mentality, right? The mentality is so different when you have dedicated your whole life to this, when you have completely buried yourself in this world. And for someone like Christian Eriksen, who has a wife and children, I think our default is it's like how, people love spending other people's money when it comes to like transfers and everything else. Like they love saying, this is what they should do, this is what they should do. And it's like, well, yeah, you can have an opinion on it, but it's not yours to spend, so you'll never actually know. And maybe his mindset is coming away from it and saying, I've got my family, I'm happy with that, I don't want to go any further. But so many people talk about the struggles they have post-career of adjusting to a life where you're not got the routine of day in, day out football, where you're not training, where you're not still getting to experience things on those top level. And if it's Christian Eriksen feels that he needs to, maybe doesn't play for the national team anymore, but continues playing, for Wolfsburg or whoever else that might be at this point, then, that's completely his choice. I don't think we should shame him in any way. Some people really, really vehemently being like, you should stop now. You should absolutely stop now. And I heard Gabby Bonner talking about it this morning. He's like, I can see a world where he continues playing because the technology has worked correctly, and that's almost more reassuring, even though it was what a terrible choice of phrase that was going to be. I was going to call it a heart in mouth moment for us when that happened, but dear Lord, like just sometimes it's obviously a famous phrase. It was a real shock moment when that happened, and everyone kind of feared the worst again, and thankfully things did work. But yeah,
shout out to everyone the staff, everyone that responded immediately towards it. And as you mentioned, he's conscious right now, he's with his loved ones. I'm not sure if he's been discharged yet. I think he's close to being it, or hasn't been yet, but everyone responded in the way they should have, and the match was abandoned as it should have been. So for all that, we're very grateful for, in terms of those conversations, whether he should play or not moving forward. That is a personal decision. And for me personally, if he wants to continue playing, if he doesn't, whatever decision he makes, I will be comfortable with, because I've never been a professional player, and I do not understand the pain that professional athletes have to deal with retiring and giving up the dream that they always wanted to do and finding a life outside of football. That is, a lot of people go through very depressive episodes trying to deal with that reality. And so if Eriksen's not ready to give that up yet, then by all means, I will support that.
A few other ones from this weekend that are very much of note. The big one being poor Lenny.
I know, man.
Properly gutted about this. Leonard Carl ruled out of the 2026 World Cup with a thigh injury. The incredible 18-year-old, but who has been such a star for Bayern Munich, both off the bench and starting this season, is going to miss it. Asanwi Drago is coming in, the RB Leipzig midfielder, to replace him for Germany. But if you want to take the positives, 18 years old, he potentially has another 3 to 4 World Cups in his future.
Hopefully.
And he is that quality of player that you could imagine him starring for Germany in many, many, many years to come. But man, really gutted for him, really, really gutted, because I thought he could have featured for Germany in this tournament in a massive way.
He was one of those young players that you always see in every World Cup that you're just like, this summer is the moment for him to elevate in the public and global eye. And everything was set up for him, starting in that midfield potentially with Jamal Musiala and Florian Wirtz, and Leonard Carl had a chance to be even the most assertive player of that midfield that can really create chances for Germany. And for him to miss out on this, it's so close, just right on the doorsteps of this World Cup. I genuinely feel for him. It's a big loss for Germany as well, despite all the talent that they do have. Having that guy who can be a game changer, a young, dynamic, you almost need a young, naive, dynamic player sometimes to help alleviate some of the concerns the German public has towards the shortcomings of the national team. And he could be someone that people could point to as, this time it's different. And unfortunately, he will not take part of it. So it's one of many injuries that we've seen, unfortunately, that young, talented players that had huge roles on their national teams just won't be able to shine.
And a few notable results from the games this weekend. Belgium running out 5-0 winners over Tunisia. We had Portugal getting a win over Chile, but some scenes in that game. Rafael Leao, who we were talking about last week as a possible Premier League transfer this summer, hot-headed to say the least.
I don't know. know, Jim.
He's going to miss the start of the World Cup now. Australia getting a draw with Switzerland, significant. Scotland, 4-0 winners over Bolivia. John McGinn, superstar. Had you only just discovered the unofficial Scotland World Cup song?
I did find it. No, I was showing to Sam because Sam hadn't known of the song. And so
it's such a banger.
It's so classic Scottish, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like everything about it, condescending.
Camden Park
Also,
sucks. But I will go there anyway. It's so good. LCD Sound System, one of my favourite bands in the world, and it's very clearly influenced by that, but man, it's so good. And Brazil 2-1 winners over Egypt. Nothing particularly spectacular in that performance, but go on.
Endrick. If there's one person that needs to start for Brazil, it has to be Endrick. And it's no disrespect to Igor Thiago, but if it's going to be a 4-4-2 that Brazil is playing, I'm sorry, if there's two strikers up top, it needs to be Vinicius Jr. and it needs to be Endrick. Endrick is a game changer, another one of those young, dynamic teenagers that will burst on the scenes this summer. He deserves to start. Somehow, some way. I don't know who he's taking out of there, and it's probably Igor Thiago. Endrick needs to start for Brazil. He does. Hands down.
Vinny playing just off him, making those cutting runs in from the side, drifting out left.
That was fun to watch.
People always see that as being like, oh, that only works if you're playing with a 3 or a 5. But I always think the player I always think of in that situation is Thierry Henry, because that Arsenal team was playing a pretty strict old school 4-4-2, and Henry would always drift out to that left hand side and leave that space for Bergkamp to make the runs to middle, or Van Persie at a later time, and that's what Vinny can be doing, and Endrick can be the man to get on the end of those. I love it.
And even if they play 4-3-3. As Carlo Ancelotti always does, having Vinny on the left and having Endrick up top, I think that can work really well for Brazil. Other questions in the midfield and the back line, but those two guys need to start for Brazil. No question.
There we go. Endrick will turn 20 years old just 2 days after the World Cup final, maybe as a national hero. Who knows? Right, next hour of the show. Loads still to come on the S Word. Just stick around, get in the comments, and we'll see you in a minute.
From kickoff to the full-time whistle, talkSPORT presents the S Word. featuring Will Gavin and Master Tess Fassian. And a squad of big-name contributors. The S Word from talkSPORT.
Welcome back to the S Word with talkSPORT. I'm Will Gavin, alongside me, Master Tess Fatsian, as we build up to the 2026 World Cup getting underway in just 3 days' time.
3 days.
Oh, baby. Still lots of football to get into on the show today as we look to France and their group for this World Cup. Jeremy Smith will be joining us with Iraq, Norway, Senegal. That's an unbelievable group. Unbelievable group.
I've got a hot take of that group, and I'll wait till we get to that segment.
Stick around about 15 minutes time for that one. Oh, I don't even know what that is. And then Michael LaHoo will join us later in the hour.
He'll have some takes himself.
Some of the African nations involved in this year's World
Morocco with a huge injury as well that we'll keep you guys updated on at the end of this show. But a huge loss potentially for them in the World Cup.
But listen, whilst neither of us are wearing our paraphernalia today,
usually I am.
Took a day off from Arsenal, didn't you?
It's because it's raining. I had to dress appropriately.
Listen, I think both Master and I are big football shirt nerds, and we talk endlessly about the passion of football fans, but what if you could literally own a piece of the action? Imagine bidding on a player's exact sweat-soaked jersey that they celebrated the 90th minute winner on the pitch. This is the reality created by the great match-worn shirt, and I'm delighted to say that joining us on the show now about the exploding sports memorabilia market is the co-founder of Match-Worn Shirt, Bob Zonderwijk. Bob, welcome to the show, sir. How are you doing?
Very much. I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Don't worry, we will ask you about the Netherlands' opportunities at this World Cup as well. I put them on my dark horse list recently. I think in a World Cup where there could be a lot of difficult 1-0 wins. I'm just saying.
He's following the mathematician there. The mathematicians.
But listen, you've got this huge exhibit going to New York. If people aren't familiar with what you guys do, Bob, tell us a little bit about it, because Master and I love it.
So, in short, what we do is we offer fans around the world a one-stop shop, an app where they can bid on shirts that players are still wearing as soon as the event kicks off. So, obviously, our main focus is in football, in European football, but we also do cycling, rugby, cricket. We just entered the NBA as well. But so basically, it doesn't matter whether you are in the stands or you're on the sofa at home, anywhere in the world. As soon as you see the player running around chasing that ball in that jersey, you can bid on it and make it yours, and then you compete against the rest of the world to determine how expensive it's going to be to own that piece of history. And
I think I saw from the Premier League, obviously Arsenal winning the Premier League title for the first time in 22 years.
Did you? You've never mentioned it.
But I didn't mention this part. The kit that Kai Havertz wore against Burnley, which ultimately he scored the game winner in that match that led to Arsenal winning the Premier League, that went for auction on Match-Worn Shirts, did it not? And how much did it go for?
On the top of my head, I say 22K, but I have to say, I just became a father, so my sleep is very low at the moment. Nobody on top of all my numbers. I do know what Jamal went for last week, but I think it was around 22K.
Yeah. In terms of that, like, what was there so much demand? Obviously, the Kai Havertz and Leo Trossard shirts sold for £49,000. In terms of it, how does that compare to the other Premier League shirts that you guys have sold, and how many Arsenal fans were willing to try and spend as much as they could to try and own those shirts?
It's I would say a regular Arsenal game would go, obviously it depends a little bit on the player, a little bit on the sentiment, between, let's say, £900 for, let's say, the least popular player in the squad, up to like $3,000 for a regular game. So in that sense, this is like 10 times as important. I still think that we have room to grow here. That if literally every Arsenal fan in the world that would have that money to spend on an item like this would get involved, it would go for much higher. Well, I think I'm preaching to the choir, right? It's quite a special.
Over there you are.
Special year to be an Arsenal fan. So and I guess that's the beauty of an auction model. I'm not sure if you saw it and how popular it is where you guys are based, but we did an ice skating shoot from the Olympics, speed skating. It went over 200K. Wow. So is that more valuable than Arsenal winning the title? Yeah, it just depends on who's getting involved and who the other one is that you're bidding against.
I'm seeing 26,700 the Kai Havertz one went for, and then 22,000 Leo Trossard shirt went for. So
it's a pretty penny.
Yes. Incredible.
Tell us about this exhibit in New York, because I've seen some of the names and some of the jerseys you guys are going to have on display, and like, even if you're not the sort of person who's going to spend 20 grand plus on a match worn shirt, if they on these very special occasions, just to come and see these shirts that are on display, it's like a museum.
Exactly. So, like I said, we opened shop in the US. So we're doing all the US soccer. So NWSL, MLS, US Soccer, Canada Soccer, etc. But now also starting in NBA, and obviously this is for us a huge year to also show in the US what we're good at. We don't underestimate how big of a beast the US market is, but our European football and the biggest sporting event in the world happening in the US is for us the perfect opportunity to showcase that. And obviously American fans consume, I think, sports in a completely different way to Europeans. They're arguably as passionate, but in a different way. And we want to basically, on a low key level, let them experience football or soccer with us. By doing it in one of the coolest areas in New York, in a cool expo where you have a lot of foot traffic, offering it free to the public, to just let them walk in, browse around, see, once they sort of buy into how beautiful that story is of the Battle of Nuremberg or Diego Maradona, and then sort of thinking of, okay, there's games happening right now. There's shirts being worn at the moment that could become this legendary in the future. For us, it just makes perfect sense to do an expo like this. And also very important to make it free of charge so that everyone can just walk in and enjoy it.
I know you talk about American football culture, but I spent a lot of time in Amsterdam, and obviously seeing what you're doing there with match-worn shirts. I'm good friends with Kickoff Vintage, as they're doing some great things as well. With Copa as well, the store there in Amsterdam. There is a vintage shirt collection culture in Amsterdam. What got you into it, and why in the Netherlands is there also an appreciation for timeless shirts?
Well, I think we've been obviously a football nation, as long as anyone probably that's listening can remember. However, in terms of really cherishing memorabilia, I think we have quite far to go. The mindset of the average Dutch person is let's just behave normal and don't get bigger than your shoes. Is that how you say it? Or bigger than your boots? So even if you have success, like there's no need to then annoy your neighbor with your Ferrari every morning. That's sort of our mindset. I think in a lot of parts in the world, if you do well, then why not celebrate that success and buy the coolest item you can get, an Arsenal shirt or whatever, and hang it in your office. So in that sense, the Netherlands is not there just yet. And then how we got into this, so I set the company up together with my brother. And our father was a high school headmaster. He's now retired. And just a few years before his pension, he needed to move from the school where he was working for like 33 years, for the last 2 years, to a different school. And we thought we need to give him something nice in his new office. He walks in, white wall, he sees that, and he will think like, okay, nice, this is where I want to sit. And also for people that come in to feel like, okay, there's a story to tell here. This old dude with the mustache, the new high school headmaster, He has a dirty Davy Klaassen shirt on the wall. There must be a story to that. And then we went to find it. We were lawyers back then, so we had a decent salary. So we thought we'll find a way to get it. And we saw it was only available to corporate sponsors, and that's how the ball started rolling. And we started to figure out why not.
It's worth mentioning as well that we're talking about some not extortionate, that's the wrong word, some exorbitant was the word I was looking for, huge sums of money here. But this isn't just lining your pockets, Bob, is it? This isn't just a completely commercial endeavour. You guys put a lot of money to charity and a lot towards foundations, etc. Like this is it's a business, but at the same time, understand your proceeds are going somewhere good.
Yeah, indeed. So when we started, we thought like we are going to tell exactly where the participating clubs need to send their money to. So we had two charities that we selected, one for children's muscle disease and the other one, Johan Cruyff Foundation, that builds like football pitches in less fortunate areas. But we soon found out that obviously every club has their own projects that they run, and they say like, great that there's problems in the world, but in our local community we have more than enough to do. And this is our, existence as a football club is also because there's this community and we have to give back. So we immediately stepped away from trying to dictate where that goes, but we try to encourage every single team that we work with to allocate those funds to charity. Some do it 100%. Some say like per year at least, I don't know, this many thousands go to the foundation so that the foundation can build on that. We are indeed a business, but I think an auction like this, I don't know. I don't really have a logic reason to add to this, but it just feels like it makes sense to have a charity element attached to it, and that's also what's happening all over the world. That makes sense.
I mean, I imagine that also helps you get hold of the shirts, because the fact is that, you know, I'm sure a lot of people, if they knew that there was money to be made off these, would want to make their own money off it. So, you know, you go to the clubs, you say, we want the shirts, this is the money that's going to go back to the charities, etc. Like, I'm assuming that's some of the logistics of the business, surely.
Yeah, it does. It obviously does help. Yeah, and it also helps when you have to explain to your partner that you just bought this stock. Like, yeah, sorry, it's what's your charity. You know what I mean? So
at least you have a reason. I have none. I have no reason.
I'm not going to lie. We've got a Gaza shirt from that Italia '90 upstairs, and I've eyed it up so many times and just wondered just how much would something like that cost me, or could I sneak it out of the building in the middle of the night? But I shouldn't be saying that live.
Worn?
Yeah, worn shirt. Yeah.
Ooh.
No, it's not the semi-final, unfortunately, but it is from the tournament.
It's so cool. Are you coming to the expo in New York, or are you?
Actually, there's a chance I'll be there. Actually, so if I do, I absolutely will swing by. But I mean to ask you, what is your favorite World Cup kit of all time?
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Stunned silence. And the fact is, the Netherlands have had some good ones.
They've had some tremendous
You can
ones.
absolutely pick one of the Dutch kits, because there are 2 or 3 of those that are just mwah.
Yeah, but our best one is the 88, which is obviously a European one, which I think everyone hated at the start, right? And then we get success in it, and then it's like, oh, this is the most iconic, beautiful thing.
Usually that's a story behind the kit, right? It's like success sometimes defines the legacy of the kit just as much as the design does.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I have a controversial answer to this from my nationality. I think any German kit from the, let's say, last 20 years, for me, always hits a spot. Or Croatia is always something that I feel I don't like looking at the Croatia shirt, but sort of when you're watching an international tournament, it's so pleasing to see those what is it, checkers? Is that
the 96 and the 98 Croatia shirts, the ones for the Euros and the France World Cup, the David Succo era, right? Oh my God, unbelievable, right up there. The reason I love the new Germany shirt so much is just what an ode it is to the 1990, because that's one of the all-time greats. So yeah,
it's the last one that you know is the perfect romantic picture, right? With Adidas, I think belongs to the German national team. So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. Let's talk some Netherlands though. I know we got a mathematician who's predicted the last 3 World Cups. He is choosing the Netherlands to win the World Cup based off of his GDP calculations, probability that he has. This man over here to my right is now picking them as one of their dark horses. How are you feeling about Orange's chances of winning the World Cup?
Cool. It's not the octopus, right? The mathematician. I don't know. I want to be in a dark horse position. I think every tournament where we are dubbed as one of the favorites, or where we think we are one of the favorites, it's not a good spot for us. In that sense, we have a bit, I think, of the mentality of England as well. Like, we always have a good squad on paper, but you know, if you put us under real pressure against a real seasoned team of 40-year-old butchers, then it's going to be really tough to win that mental game. I think we're good in a dark horse position. I would say we make it to the semifinals. And I'm not saying that we go out there, but I think we're going to make it to the semifinals, and I haven't mapped out what happens afterwards. If you look at the competition, though, I'm obviously biased, then I don't think we should be there. If that makes sense.
Why? Why do you think that?
I understand.
It all depends if we get a striker that is going to actually perform, and who the striker is going to be is, I think, we're going to find out tonight, because I think the coach said tonight there will be a lot of clarity on the final lineup.
Who do you think it should be?
I think it should be Bobby, with his recent performance. But then again, a national team is always different. It could be that he walks up onto the pitch and it just doesn't work. I mean, is Weghorst a national team striker for the Netherlands? On paper, I don't know, but I mean, this Argentina goal, like, just goes down in the history books as one of the
all-timer. But it was a set piece. It was a set piece goal, and I get the moments and the significance of it, but I don't know. I don't know if you're better off with
Weghorst. Striker, but he's an amazing pinch hitter, and he's, I guess, one of the few that can actually keep his head cool when you really need to.
I think you bring them off the bench against tired defenses when they're just going to be worn down and ready to be taken apart, and he can just bully them. He'll just come on and bully them. Probably from the start, I think is the right shout. Bob, absolutely sensational from you. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find out more about Match Worn shirts?
mws.com. So make it a little bit easier, just 3 letters.com. And there they can check it out on the web or the app.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Congratulations on anything. Enjoy this weekend.
Good luck to Netherlands.
Thanks. Stuff. Wonderful.
You're dark horse.
Yes, they are. Like, I just really feel that the Netherlands they're so well organised. They are so strong defensively. And in a World Cup where actually an Arsenal-esque team, a Greek Euros-esque team, in the conditions, in the longer tournament, everything else could come out on top. Like, if they're there at the semi-final stages, yeah, you'd fancy France. Yeah, you'd fancy Spain. You might even fancy England in that situation. But I just think, like, they know how to set themselves up to frustrate, and everyone wants to see a World Cup where games have 7-8 goals in them and are exciting end to end and everything else. But the fact of the matter is defensive football could definitely win
this guy talking defensive football now in June 8th. Where was his talk a month ago?
It's just because I was digging into you and Arsenal. Surely you understand that. Michael Lahoud's going to join us a little later this hour. We'll talk some African football, particularly those in the groups that we are previewing today. But up next, La Masia will be playing. En Francais will be discussed because one of the favourites for the tournament, Jeremy Smith, is going to join us to preview them up next. I'm Will Gavin, and it's all me all the time.
Big name reaction from both sides of the pond. The S Word from talkSPORT. talkSPORT presents the S Word. High energy exchanges, fiery fan reactions, and the biggest football debate. The S Word from talkSPORT.
You're back with the S Word on talkSPORT. 3 days until the World Cup. You're flying out there after the show tomorrow.
Yes, I will be in LA taking part of all the festivities that beautiful Southern California has to offer, leading up to the USA's first match against Paraguay.
If you're wondering,
SoFi Stadium.
I never got an invite, just letting you know. We'll have Ollie.
You want to be a USA fan?
I'll be a Do
you want? I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win.
I will sing the heck out of that if it means I get to go to games. That's fine. I'll say, we love it. I'll do all of it. I don't care. I will be officially an outlaw if it means I get to go to World Cup
we don't
games.
go that far. We don't go that far.
I have been here since 2012 and I have yet to go to a World Cup. I've worked at talkSPORT for that long, so I'm just
Maybe
saying.
we can cook up something for the knockout stage.
Here we go.
Go to New York.
Here we go. Oh, baby.
Wouldn't that be
Maybe.
nice?
Maybe. We'll make it work.
Saving it for the good ones.
Might end my marriage, but it'll be fine. Listen, still to come on the show, Michael Lahoud is going to join us to talk about some of the African teams involved in this year's World Cup, particularly as we are talking a bit of Senegal today, a bit of France, a bit of that sensational group, plus Cape Verde's Cinderella story in Group H, getting out as the third place qualifier, is something that Master truly believes could happen.
I'm just saying. Look out. I think we'll get a lot of fun from these third place situations this World Cup. Don't sleep on it. I was mapping out and making my bracket last night, just tentatively, and some of these third place sides.
I got your present. I forgot.
A present? You have a present for me?
Last time I did this, I pulled an absolute rope-a-dope and really made you
Is this a pencil?
I got your wall chart.
No way.
We were talking about. He's like, oh, it's just a bracket. It's just a bracket. I'd like. You've got to have a wall chart for the World Cup. You've got to have that. I'm not sure they've sponsored the show.
No, they haven't.
Don't show it on camera,
I'm
but
keeping tight to the vest.
we can have it on the wall or whatever. I don't know if talkSPORT have made one actually. Maybe we should.
There's
just
one in the
hit them up
cafe.
to do one. A talkSPORT one.
Yeah, but it's on the wall.
Oh, it's huge, isn't it? I mean, we could get that in the
wall.
studio in here, just to cover up one of those screens.
Digital. Replace Kylian Mbappe.
Getting rid of Lady Liberty behind you or something like that.
Yeah, that's a little too far. Show some love, Lady Liberty. That the gift from the French they gave to us.
Is our guest ready to go? Guy got the thumbs up. Excellent stuff.
Thank you.
Favourites for this year's World Cup.
All we're doing is talking favorites.
Well, maybe
today.
second favourites. Spain, France, jumping between the two of them. But this Group I, is one of the tastiest. Can't wait. France, Norway, France, Senegal. Such sensational games. Iraq have got their work cut out. But I'm delighted to say the French football writer and podcaster Jeremy Smith joins the show to preview it all. Jeremy, how are you, sir? Welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming.
Not too bad, thanks. How are you doing?
Ça va, oui, ça va.
Listen, what's the expectations right now across the much smaller pond from us here in London? Because a lot of people fancy France to go all the way this year.
The expectations are high, and however much Didier Deschamps wants to downplay it, they're definitely among the favourites. You mentioned Spain. I mean, for me, Spain are still the outright favourites, but France, anything less than semi-final and probably even final would really be a disappointment, I think, with the, particularly the attacking talent that they've got in their squad. You've got to fancy them to go quite far as long as they don't have one of their sort of periodical explosions.
Which, hey, listen, I wouldn't necessarily rule that out considering who is the man that is wearing the armband, Kylian Mbappe. What we have seen from him since the 2022 World Cup final, which was a sensational performance. However, obviously making the move to Real Madrid and not winning a trophy there in the last 2 seasons, now being the captain of the French national team, how much pressure is there on Kylian Mbappe to deliver a World Cup for France?
I think there's a lot of pressure. Well, in some ways, there's not such a big amount of pressure because he's already helped deliver a World Cup for France. In other ways, I think a lot of the pressure is put on him by himself, and maybe that's where the issue is. I think he puts a bit too much pressure on. Whatever he says, he seems a little bit obsessed with winning the Ballon d'Or one day, and he won that World Cup obviously very early in his career. He's now 28. It's probably fair to say that this is his last World Cup, kind of at the peak of his physical powers. He's had an interesting season, I guess, at Real Madrid. 41 goals isn't to be sniffed at, but he's kind of ended the season trophyless and with a lot of criticism headed his way. So often it seems like when he's had issues in his club, going back to the France international fold has sort of been a kind of quite nice for him, sort of a comfort blanket. It's where he's the boss and he likes to make his statement. And certainly the last 2 World Cups, he's been fantastic. So I think he's hoping that he can sort of carry on where he left off in those last 2 World Cups and maybe, I was going to say carry France to victories. It's certainly not on his shoulders alone, but he will, I'm sure that ego will want to end the tournament as, lifting the trophy and probably as top scorer as well.
Because that World Cup, Antoine Griezmann, I think about Paul Pogba, I think about those two and the tremendous performances they had, and then I think about Mbappe, because like you said, that was his global breaking out moment. It still feels like he's chasing having that cementing moment, whether it is a Champions League winner, whether it is a World Cup, and like you taking the captain armband and like demanding to have that and all these other burdens. It truly feels like he is still chasing the shadows of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo to a resume compared to those two domestically or internationally, maybe still has some work to do.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in terms of international, it's kind of the other way around to those two who won everything in club football and actually won their international trophies quite late on in their career. And yeah, I agree, like the first World Cup, he was an 18-year-old. The pressure wasn't entirely on his shoulders. The last World Cup, I wouldn't say, again, that he carried France, but, you can't do much more than score a hat-trick and score in the penalty shootout in the final. It's kind of not exactly down to him that they lost that match. But, he doesn't perform well for some reason in the Euros. He hasn't got a great record there. It hasn't gone quite right in club football, despite still having a great goal-scoring record. So, yeah, I think for him he wants to be, he's chasing history. He's only 1 goal away from being the French top scorer of all time. And I think he wants to be able to be compared to those, world-class for all time players. And to do that, I think he definitely needs to win certainly a Champions League, but probably another World Cup.
Where are the concerns, the question marks on this team right now?
The reason I think Spain are favourites is because I think they're the most balanced team, with team being the crucial word. And it's funny that, there's been lots of talk in the last few weeks or the last year or so about PSG and what a great balanced team they are and how that's been more the case since Mbappe left. France, I think, are still a little bit top heavy in that they've got an amazing array of forwards. They've got a strong midfield, but I still think there's question marks over their defence. I just don't think they have world-class fullbacks. And although they've got, on paper, a lot of good centre-backs, I feel like if it's not Upamecano and Saliba at the top of their game, then I worry. I don't rate Konate at all. I think he proved my point in the friendly the other day against the Ivory Coast. And so, I worry that there's still a few mistakes in that defence. And when it comes down to the knockout stages and where it could be very tight, it could be a mistake that wins or loses the match, that's my concern. And that's why I still put Spain slightly as favourites.
I think it's a fair concern, especially Saliba, if he's able to play or not. I think obviously he's the mainstay, the focal point of that back line. Honestly, I rate Lacroix more than I rate Upamecano and Konate in terms of what Lacroix has done consistently delivering for Crystal Palace. But as you mentioned, the fullback situation, I don't know what France will do there, because it just simply put, facing against some of the top the best wingers in the world, like a Spain, and you've got Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams on both sides, France doesn't have the fullbacks to compare.
No, I mean, if it were me, I would put Zaire Emery at right back. I think he's better than Koundé and Gusto. I think he's proved that at PSG. I would have had him ahead of Hakimi at PSG as well, actually. And left back, the fact that Lucas Digne, after all these years, is probably favourite to start, either him or Theo Hernandez, who's kind of in semi-retirement in Saudi Arabia, shows that they don't really have anyone stepping up in that position either. So, yeah, it's a worry, I think. And especially, nowadays the fullbacks are supposed to be as much an attacking threat as a sort of defensive linchpin. I don't think France have that.
Hey, Lucatine's a European champion, guys. Let's remember that. We've been having some fun with the Premier League dominance in the lower European competitions with Master over the last couple of weeks.
I hate it. Absolutely hate it. But it's not
Jerry, what about the rest of the group? Because, you know, when I look at the expanded World Cup, one of my struggles has been finding those group stage games which really, really sing, because we have got so many additional teams in there. And yet France have got at least two of them in Norway and Senegal. Those are two of the best games, I think, of the whole group stage. So what is the feeling towards that group and where the threats come to France?
So when you asked about my concerns, I was talking about sort of concerns on paper in terms of the players being both very superstitious and naturally pessimistic. My other concern is it feels like there's a lot of similarities with 2002, even down to sort of losing pre-World Cup friendlies that France shouldn't have lost, things like that. In 2002, France had the top scorers of England, France, and Italy in their team. They didn't score a goal the whole tournament or the whole group stage. And you know, now they've got a lot of free flowing or free scoring players as well. Is the same thing going to happen? And obviously the kind of standout similarity is they've got Senegal first game. And so there's no sort of easy way into the tournament. They need to be on their game straight away. Senegal have obviously proved in the AFCON, despite controversies and everything, what a class team they are. And I suppose because of this expanded format, there's that kind of safety cushion that, you know, if you get a decent third place, you may still go through, but it's probably as close as you come in the 48-team format to a group of death, because there's three teams that could easily justifiably say we should be aiming for first place in this group. So hopefully by the third match, which is Norway, hopefully France and maybe Norway as well will have sealed their place. And, you know, with no disrespect to Iraq, for example, they got a great result the other day against Spain, I think. I think everyone will hope that they at least get out of that match with 3 points. And then, yeah, the Senegal match is huge. It's not like 2018 when France sort of scraped past Australia 2-1, playing really badly. Senegal are a much better team than Australia, and they'll punish France if they're not at the top of their game.
You say there's three teams that could be battling for first. I genuinely think it's only two. I think it's France and Senegal. I do not think Norway has the midfield.
We've been blinded by Haaland, do you think? Have we been?
Absolutely. I think everyone's being blinded by Haaland and Odegaard, but this is a nation that has not made the World Cup for a reason. You talk about balance. That team is incredibly imbalanced, and watching them against Morocco last night further confirmed that this midfield, compared to what Senegal and France have to offer, I think they're going to struggle against those two nations, and they'll be scraping by trying to get a third place side. That's just my personal opinion. I truly feel France and Senegal are a class above Norway.
I hope you're right for France's sake. One of my concerns with France, I guess, is that they've always struggled to break down tight, organised defences. And without wanting to generalise, that's generally what you get from a Scandinavian team. And actually, that's where I think someone like Ryan Cherki could come in as important. I don't think he's going to start for France, but when you're looking for someone just to produce some kind of magic to unlock a tight defence, he might be the man there.
Beautiful stuff, Jeremy. Look,
one quick question, real quick, because I've seen this over the weekend, the Mbappe and N'Golo Kante situation. Is there something going on there? Obviously, N'Golo Kante had the armband, captain, and then when Mbappe came on, was forced to take it off. And Kante, of course, being a legend, the humble's servant, and nothing wrong ever said about him. But is there a rift between those two? I'm trying to read the tea leaves, and it's just hard for me to understand.
I think everyone's trying to, and I think there's an element of, the media are a little bit bored in the lead up to the World Cup and trying to find stories where maybe there aren't. I think if it was any other player, I'd be worried. But the fact that it was Conte, and I know there was the thing with the armband and a couple of matches ago, but I would be stunned if he was the type of player to be causing any kind of trouble at all. So I'm really hoping it's something of nothing. But again, that kind of thing just gives me the wobbles, because it makes me think again of 2002 and even worse 2010. So I'm really hoping there's nothing in it.
For your sake, I'm hoping as well, because we've seen Mbappe kind of take over this nation and kind of, obviously the jokes and the memes of dictator Mbappe. And it's just a very fascinating dynamic in terms of what's going on the French national team. And Kanté, obviously, well deserving of the captain armband and probably has an argument to be the captain of this team.
I think Mbappe needs to realise that he can't do it himself. It's by playing as part of a team that he will end up getting the individual plaudits. It's similar to 2018, where Paul Pogba was trying to do too much in midfield. Everyone said to him, just simplify it. When you keep your game simple, you're arguably the best midfielder in the world. He did that for the World Cup. He became a leader in the changing room and he helped France to victory. I think if Mbappe really kind of tones down the ego and remembers it's an 11 player sport, then I think France have got a great chance, and he's got a great chance of getting all that glory that he wants.
There's a lot of Real Madrid fans, I think, probably feel the same, Jeremy. Brilliant stuff, Jeremy. Thank you very much for joining us. Wonderful stuff. Thank you to you.
Je vous en prie. Thank you.
Look, suddenly you want to see French sides doing well. What's happened in the last couple of weeks, eh?
I've always enjoyed the French.
Yeah, you weren't enjoying them a couple of Sundays ago, though, were you?
I mean,
allez, allez, allez. Do you know what, that PSG shirt did turn up in the end? The one with the US flag that I showed you I nearly bought. Actually, it turns out I did buy it.
Don't bring it. I will burn it.
That's gonna be coming out at some point in the night. I'm Will Gavin, and it's all me. Right, get out of it. Up next, Michael Lahoud joins us. We've been waiting for this one for a whole month. We've been trying to get him on. He is sensational African football expert from Golazzo, from so many other places, and we have got so much to get into with him. So that's up next on the S Word.
From the touchline to the terraces, talkSPORT presents the S Word. talkSPORT presents the S Word. Listen again and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on the talkSPORT USA YouTube channel.
You're watching the S Word from talkSPORT. I'm all Gavin, Master Tesfatsion alongside me. Get involved in the chat on the YouTube page. Patio Joe, good morning, boys. The week is here.
We're here, finally. 3 days away, baby.
I feel like we've been building to this point and building to this point, and man, I cannot wait for the Festival of Football on the way. Nathan also says, this show's great. I like the American guy. So it's nice because a lot of people getting in the comments and slating the Yanks. It's good to see.
Thank you.
The great Master Tesfatsion getting the love that he enjoys.
That is exactly how this show.
We love love.
We love.
Here.
We love.
Don't
love.
start.
We absolutely love love.
And we love our next guest. We need to get into some of the big African nations, particularly in the two groups that we're talking about today. I want to know about why we should not be dismissing Cape Verde, and if Senegal can actually just bring back the ghosts of 2002 and absolutely ruin the French chance of this World Cup. And I'm delighted to say one of the very best to do it. From CBS, former footballer as well, the great Michael Lahoud.
Come on, Big Mike in the building.
We have been very excited to get you on, Mike. We really appreciate you taking the time out to join us. Thank you so much, brother.
No, this has been a long time coming. Master, it's good to see you as always. We said this would happen. We said this has happened, so here we are.
Yeah, we are here, and we are here to talk about African football. 10 nations that are going to be participating in this year's expanded World Cup. What a huge achievement this is for the continent, and tell us more about how far this continent has come in this sport. And really, it feels like a short amount of time we're seeing these nations really becoming a huge threat on this stage.
I want to take you guys back to the 2022 World Cup, where Morocco, they make their journey. They're on this miracle run, getting to the continent's first ever semifinal. And it just seemed like the world stage, every single person on planet Earth, finally started giving Africa the credit it deserved. And also this sense of, okay, maybe there's hope for this game on the African continent after all. So to finally see the door open where you can now get added teams in the World Cup, timing is everything. And I really think that Morocco's success really set the tone for other countries like your Cape Verdes, for other countries that we're going to talk about even more as the World Cup gets going, to really get the spotlight put on them. So for me, recruitment is why you should care about African football. Recruitment is why you should care about teams like your Cape Verdes. It's why we started caring about teams like Morocco, because there's something that every African nation is taking from the likes of Morocco. Morocco, their investment started in 2015. And the number one thing was, people look at, they invested in the youth, they invested in the academies, they invested in the youth national teams. But what I always noticed was they recruited dual nationals. And dual nationals exist whether at home in Africa, but also in Europe as well. So they really are tapped into the African diaspora. And it's why Cape Verde is at the World Cup and the likes of Cameroon are not. So there's just so much to unpack when it comes to Africa.
Is there a feeling on that front, Michael, that I think about like those great French teams of the late 90s and early noughties and the number of great African players who were dual nationals and were part of those French teams. Is there a feeling now people are choosing Africa over maybe those major European nations or wherever else it may be?
Yeah, there definitely is. And I think that when I speak about the recruitment model, and I think England's a prime example of this, because one of the players that is going to be the stars for the French national team, Michael Olise. Imagine a Michael Olise that would have stuck it out, and maybe he gets picked by Thomas Tuchel, maybe he doesn't. Michael Olise is a dual national. He could also represent Nigeria if he really wanted the stress of that assignment, but he chose a different path, and he chose to bet on himself. And so in just my experience as a former player and a dual national as well, I think African countries now have a chance to go. And if you have a young, talented European-born athlete or footballer, you can go into his parents' living room at the age of 19 and 20, start the recruitment early, and said, hey, why don't you come play for our under-21s or maybe our under-23 team? Or maybe even you have a chance to play in a World Cup more so than you can for a top European country. So every single young player that's a dual national that has the talent, has the capacity, I think African football really has a chance to win them over, because you're talking about giving them a platform to shine now, not just in the future or maybe waiting it out that you might have to see for a top European country. So I think we're really going to see that. I mean, so many of the countries, I know that one player that's been getting a lot of love, for Liverpool, Yan Diomande, we're talking about maybe going for Liverpool. And it's because, yeah, he plays for Leipzig, but we're really going to see that price tag really go up because of his performance for the Côte d'Ivoire. And so I just love just the transformative period we're in for African football as a whole.
And look, his potential future teammate at Liverpool, we saw put on a stunning performance this weekend in Rio and Gamoa. And immediately on social media, there was talk about should Thomas Tuchel have picked him for the World Cup. But also, I saw a lot of people saying, no, come play for Nigeria. You've only played in the friendly. Come play for Nigeria.
No, look, Nigeria, Master, you know how I feel about my Nigers, man. And I know Nigerians are all throughout London. So Nigerians, come at me in the comments because I'm here for the smoke. I got beef with Nigerian football right now. I got loads of beef with the Nigerian Federation. They are the worst run federation on planet Earth. I will, there's no one that can convince me otherwise. They're a disaster right now. They would be able to right the wrongs of Nigerian football tenfold for the next 2 decades if they were to get the biggest coup, which is recruit the likes of a Rio and Gamoa. If they were to do that, then maybe I won't be a Nigerian football hater as I am right now. So,
and maybe they would have made the World Cup. But let's focus on the 10 nations that did make the World Cup. And let's start with the AFCON champions, Senegal.
The real ones.
The real champ. The ones that went on the pitch. Senegal. They're in a tough group with France, Norway, and Iraq. But I think they can challenge France. Like, what are the chances of Senegal potentially stunning the world and winning this group?
If we took anything away from France's recent friendly, the big thing is that France, for as much as they're the favorites, they have a massive target on their back. And that connection between African countries, African players that have ties to Liga, that have ties to the French national team, that have ties to playing as a French youth international. You think of players the likes of Ibrahim Mbaye, who plays for PSG, who would love nothing more than to make a statement to his current PSG teammate, Ousmane Dembele, amongst other people like Desiree Doué as well. There's a chance, I'm just going to put this out there, this is a Senegalese national team that, because of what they did against all odds at the African Cup of Nations, because they weathered the storm of corruption, I really think, Master, they have everything it takes to top this group. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but this French team, for as good as they are going forward, the one thing that they're vulnerable at is across the back. I don't rate this back line as a whole. The 2 fullbacks are there for the taking. And it leads me to this. Sadio Mane is ready to cook, man. This is going to be the legacy of a lifetime. If the African Cup of Nations was as part of his legacy, this is going to be why you remember Sadio Mane the most, apart from what he did for Liverpool as well, is that game against France. You're going to see, in Africa, we call it having the heart of a lion, really the heart of a champion. Senegal is willing to suffer defensively and grind things out in ways that no other African country and no other African nation is willing to do right now, more so than even Morocco. They have the quality across the front line. They have Premier League proven players. They have players that have done it at the highest level, but they have a core of elder statesmen, a core of veteran players who have been together for the past 15 years, who have won together, who have suffered together, who don't fear a single team at this World Cup. And so they have all the tools to really spoil the party for France.
And I want to touch on Morocco as well, because coming off of the semifinal appearance they made in the last World Cup, this nation having a new coach right after the AFCON, and seeing them yesterday against Norway, this still looks like a very dangerous side. But I'm seeing reports of Ezazouli's potential injury, that he could miss the World Cup. How big of a loss is that from the left side? And do they still have enough to make a deep run this year?
It's you and I were texting about this, and it just kind of feels like the wind is slowly coming out of Morocco's sails. And it really started with the disappointment of the African Cup of Nations final. It really started with the disappointment of some of the things that we saw in that final, with some of the fan culture, and really Morocco being painted in the African continent as being sore losers. And watching the friendly against Norway, so many people talk about the likes of Achraf Hakimi. So many people talk about the likes of Brahim Diaz, who's part of that recruitment I'm talking about of dual nationals, obviously with his pedigree at Real Madrid. But for me, this was a World Cup. Going into it, I always kind of felt that the player that could decide the World Cup for Morocco was Abde Ezazuli. If you ever watch Real Betis play this season in La Liga or in Europe, he's their main man. And for me, in the African Cup of Nations, he just brings this sense of directness, this sense of just change of pace, and this ability to create something out of absolutely nothing. His work rate's going to be missed. His intensity is going to be missed. And that sense of balance that Morocco had with him in it, because a lot of their focus is on that right-hand side with Brahim and Hakimi bombing up and down and interchanging. If you're Mohamed Ouabi, this is the sort of loss, this is the sort of injury that completely has the potential of derailing Morocco's World Cup and could take Morocco from being a team that could go and maybe top the group and surprise people to a team that is struggling to maybe get second or third. And so I still have Morocco getting out of the group. And when you ask about who can fill the void of Abde, look at Ligue 1. There's two players I'm looking at, and one is a young man from Alger, and he's Sabai. I watched him when he played I think he played against Olympique Marseille. He doesn't have the pace of Abde, but he still has that guile where he can wrong foot you, maybe feint to the left, cut to his right. He can shoot from distance. His decision-making in the final third is solely underrated. And also Sofiane Brahimi. He's listed as a striker. He can play out wide. So there's depth in this Moroccan side that a lot of people weren't thinking was there, but it's a big miss. And it's something that if they were to get further in the competition, I know there's different reports that are coming out, some saying that he's ruled out completely of the World Cup, some saying it could be 3 to 4 weeks. But if they are to get deeper in the competition by some miracle without Abde, then maybe he comes back to play a part in it. But if he's out completely, Master, Morocco's World Cup hopes just went with him.
Sofiane Boufal could be someone as well being called up in the replacement for Ezzazzouli, obviously with the experience that he has. I know we've talked a lot about Morocco. We've talked a lot about Senegal. Who is the one African nation that people need to pay attention to that we're not talking about enough?
Yeah, no one is talking about, and more people are talking about them, but for me, no one is giving Cote d'Ivoire enough respect. And this is a Cote d'Ivoire side that, yes, they beat France, and now people are saying, oh, man, Ivory Coast is actually decent in football. But there's just a sense of ambition within this young Cote d'Ivoire side. They have a manager in Emers Faye that has high-level experience and has proved doubters wrong before, coming in and winning AFCON against all odds a couple editions ago when they hosted it. But there's just something about the quality of some of these young players. And you guys will know, covering the Premier League on talkSPORT, Amad Diallo is the name that a lot of people use to headline this Cote d'Ivoire side. But for me, Yan Diomande is special. But it's also a swan song and a comeback story for players like Simone Dingra, and a player that you and I talk about all the time, in the Bundesliga, Bazuma Traore. They have so much depth and young talent, man. So many young players that have this sense of, I don't give a damn. I don't care who we're playing against. They really have a point to prove. So if you were to ask me who is my dark horse on the African continent, amongst African teams, Ivory Coast. That's a team that after this tournament, we're going to remember their name. And even if they don't get it done, this World Cup cycle maybe have come one cycle too early, but they're my early predictions to win the next African Cup of Nations. They're that good. They're that talented.
With that being said, it's a great pick. I do need you to sell Cape Verde to me because it's been a long-running joke on the show. Cape Verde against Saudi Arabia appears to have been the game that people are taking as like when I want to talk about an expanded World Cup and I'm not going to hear it in the UK, I think that game's on at like 3 a.m. as well. Yeah. I think that's the game where people are going, oh, maybe it's not such a great idea. The guy next to me has been trying to sell me on Cape Verde, saying, don't write them off. Third place in the group isn't beyond them, so why should I be high on Cape Verde?
He's probably trying to sell you on their fans as well. Maybe watch with some binoculars in the stands and you see what I'm talking
beautiful
about.
People.
You know?
Cape Verde is beautiful people. Beautiful people
is what. That's number one that probably is going to come to mind. But we tuned into the World Cup, and I'm proud here, especially as someone whose journey has taken me from Africa to America. It's really a celebration of the Cinderella story of all Cinderella stories. Cape Verde is a country that I actually was supposed to make my international debut against Cape Verde. And so I got to witness Sierra Leone play against Cape Verde, and watching this blue collar, roll up your sleeves sort of attitude, this sense of we are here to outwork you. We're here to outperform you, and we have a sprinkle of quality. Now, unfortunately for Cape Verde, when you're in a group against the likes of, I think their first match is against Spain, good luck to you. That's going to be a tough match. But this is a Cape Verde side that if you don't give them respect of being a country that's deserving to be here, they have an extra bit of quality, especially from set piece situations and dead ball situations, where they are the king of second balls. They live and feast off of second balls. They're very industrious, and they are going to will their way into the game. What they lack in quality, they have an abundance in spirit. And so in a World Cup situation where, say, against a team, against a Saudi Arabian side that you don't know what you're going to get from them. Sometimes they're maybe good, and sometimes I can't say the word that they are. They're the other S word, right? And so I really think that their sense of heart, their sense of pride will carry them through. And like I said, second balls and set pieces, that's what's going to be the difference. And they have players that have European pedigree as well. And Ryan Mendes, he came through the Lille youth system. He has Ligue 1 experience. And just keep an eye on players like that. And, you know, the likes of Pico Lopez.
I told you about Cape Verde.
I told you. Brilliant stuff from you, Mike.
There's a bit of quality there, man.
Come on.
You're a beautiful man. You're
Absolutely
in a beautiful
brilliant,
setting.
bro.
We appreciate your time, and we hope to have you on the show again in
Much
the not
love,
too
Mike.
distant future. 3 days to the World Cup. Tomorrow we'll be back with 2 days to the World Cup. Cannot wait. With you tomorrow from 8 a.m. Eastern. Enjoy.
Peace.
The S Word with Will Gavin and Master Tesfacion from talkSPORT.